Hey everybody, have you considered starting a podcast? We here at Screwball highly recommend Podbean for getting your podcast out to a larger audience. Podbean has given us the opportunity to easily bring you Screwball each and every week on all of your favorite podcast services. Use the link podbean.com/screwball to sign up and save up to 35% annually. You can also use the link podbean.com/pro/screwball to sign up for a business subscription. Happy podcasting. Hey everybody, welcome back to Screwball, a baseball podcast, your home for everything baseball. I'm your host, Mike Lepre, here with my co-host, Frank White.
Hey, how's it going?
This is episode 105 of Screwball. We are chugging along here with the 2022 season. We are on to our third week of doing Screwball for the season, as well as the third week of baseball. And we have some, one particular big moment to go over, and some other controversies and just some general stuff to discuss, as kind of we do with the other weeks. So for the uninitiated, we usually kind of jump into week's news. We generally kind of try to round a topic around whatever's going on in baseball, and we like to, go into who's hot and who's not, and go who's hot teams, hot players and stuff. So with that, let's jump into the first segment we do, which is the news. And the first piece of news, which is the biggest and probably on everyone's mind, is Miguel Cabrera's 3,000th hit. So over the weekend, Miguel Cabrera became the 33rd member of the 3,000 hit club with a single to right field. He also became just the 7th player to have 3,000 hits as well as 500 home runs in their career. Now, if you remember last week, I think by the time we talked on it, I think he was 6 away or something like that. And he had a big series against the Yankees in which he came 1 away. I think he had one game where he had 3 hits, so he came really close. Then they had the controversial walk. Well, I wouldn't say it was controversial because it was the right call, but, obviously the fans there weren't happy. And Tigers fans at that weren't happy. So, coming off of that controversial walk where he was 1 hit away and he could have gotten it, he comes in the next series and gets his 3,000th hit and puts his name among the 33 best hitters that you could ever play baseball. And on top of that, like I said, this is the 7th player to have 500 home runs as well as a 3,000 hits, so a very exclusive club there. Miggy is, I think it goes without saying at this point that he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer, at least he should be. 7 players to ever play the game, 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, it just doesn't happen all the time. So, very cool milestone for him, very cool milestone for the Tigers, who already have a great history, with guys like Ty Cobb and Al Kaline. So, great for him, great for the Tigers, and it's just a great moment that we don't get. I feel like we've been kind of spoiled. We've gotten quite a few of them in the last 10 years or so. But, overall, we'll get to the topic, but it seems like, they're still few and far in between. So congrats to Miggy. Number 2 we have here is I just wanted to discuss Angel Hernandez, even though I think we've had other episodes where we talk about him just being really bad. So last night as of recording this, by the way, so Sunday Night Baseball, there was a large baseball conversation once again centered around umpire Angel Hernandez. After all night, as he usually does, having a more than generous strike zone, the strike calls kind of came to a head with Kyle Schwarber being rung up on an outside pitch, kind of low and outside pitch. Caused him to be ejected. Kyle Schwarber really went nuts. He threw the bat down and got right in Hernandez's face. And, of course, another conversation then was struck up about needing so-called, robo-umps in the game because you have guys like Angel Hernandez who just can't get calls right, and are still, for some reason, just still playoff umpires, which is incredible. So I just kind of wanted to bring up the, Angel Hernandez and the idea of the, strike zones and knowing your strike zone with an umpire, but just the fact that you have someone like that in baseball who can also sue the sport, sue the league, in a whole separate case, and be kind of a target already for the league and still be one of the bigger, well-known umpires.
Yeah, you get the big jobs.
Series. So it's. I just wanted to bring him up because he's just so bad.
Yeah, he was terrible. I watched the game. He called a strike that was, I believe, 6.46 inches outside the strike zone. Not many people were happy. Kyle Schwarber, I thought his argument too, which is you don't really see much, is the fact that he argued for both teams. At multiple points, you see him point to the dugout, and the other dugout, he's like, listen, you've been terrible, and you can read his lips. You've been terrible, or crap, or shit, whatever you want to call it exactly. I'm sure there was a couple F-bombs in there as well. For both teams, both sides. You see him go, like, both sides here. Mm-hmm. He was like, you've just been bad for everybody. Like, just, it's okay to be outside the strike zone, just be consistent. And he's just outside the strike zone, not consistent, doesn't care, he smiles about it, he's terrible.
Yeah.
That's, and MLB could do what they want, they want there, but he's awful. And he knows it, and he likes it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess he likes his name in the news being even baseball writers and people on LB Network, like the faces of kind of the conversation. Even I saw them reading comments and watching MLB Network, and even they were like, he's terrible. Like, and usually they're a little bit more, they kind of wash stuff away and kind of say, well, and they kind of have a little bit PR tone to it. They were like, he's terrible.
Even in the base umps the other day, he called Kikuchi for the Blue Jays. He licked his fingers while he was on the mound. Yes, that's a rule. It's an automatic ball, or, unless somebody's on base to balk. And they usually never call that. They'll say something to him. Hey, just make sure you're kind of off the mound when you do that. Mm-hmm. And he stopped the game and called the ball. Made it a point to call it. I mean, technically by the rules, he's not wrong, but he's the one making that call. It makes you like, this guy's already a problem.
Right. It just draws more attention to him.
Yeah. Well, people like to complain about a good old Joe West, but I thought Joe West was a good umpire. He was consistent, didn't take shit, and you got this guy who was just the worst umpire. He couldn't ump a T-ball game right, Angel Hernandez.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
He's a superhero umpire. He acts like you're going there to watch him.
Which is the complete opposite of really what you should be as an umpire. You should almost not even know he's there. Just make the right calls. Yeah, I know.
You're better off just having the players ump themselves than having him out there. And he's a home plate umpire. You shouldn't be the home plate umpire ever. They should just make it a rule. He can't be a home plate umpire.
Yeah.
And I'm sure his other umpires, crewmates, do not like having him on there because they get yelled at all the time too. Mm-hmm. Because they got to come over and break it up because he don't say nothing. He'll want to fight back, Angel Hernandez. And the other guys come over and they're like, yeah. And they're like, well, he's awful. And they're like, yeah.
I'm not really going to argue with you. Yeah, again, I just wanted to bring him up because he does often cause a conversation. And again, I think that he just fuels that robo-ump argument. And I think
he's the robo-ump. Yeah, he's Mr. Robo-ump rule.
Yeah.
Changer.
Yeah, like, Rob Manfred probably points and goes, see, he's terrible. Wouldn't you wish he had a robo-ump? You're like, no, not really, but I don't like him either.
He is terrible. He got that right.
Yeah, you got one part of it right. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm sure we'll see him more, and we'll probably see him in the playoffs, which is even worse. So, be wary if you see Angel Hernandez in your game while you're watching your team. Yeah, you might as well just get ready for a circus. In the last little bit here before I let Frank get into his piece of news, I just wanted to bring up the Yankees-Guardians game on Saturday, in which the kind of a circus at the end of the game, the ninth inning, where it started really with Steven Kwan in the outfield getting, crashing into the wall and kind of getting banged up, kind of getting his bell rung, and some fans having some choice words, and we're kind of, I think from reports, they were like almost like happy that he got hurt. And then Miles Straw and Oscar Mercado, the other outfielders for the Guardians, came out, and Miles Straw even got right in the fan's face, which, isn't the most, it's not the best thing you want to see from a player, but, I can't imagine what the fan said for him to want to do that. So I can't imagine the fan was very eloquent with his choice of words either. So then the Yankees end up walking it off. Gleyber Torres hits a ball in the gap and win the game, and some trash gets thrown on the field, and it just causes kind of this conversation around, fandom, how far does it go, and obviously the Yankee fans, people turn their ire to the Yankee fans because they're always a big target. So it kind of caused this big conversation, like, again, especially about fandom and how far that goes. So it was a really big piece of news when it happened, and a lot of Yankee fans came out like, hey, that doesn't represent us, and Guardians fans obviously were not happy with the Yankees, and I think that I would like to say I've been to many baseball games and never felt like I want to throw my $20 beer at someone. Not
on the field.
You know what I mean? Like, well, yeah, not on the field.
But about a guy yelling in my ear next to me.
Yeah. But I never felt like, boy, Oscar Mercado is really out there, and I better throw my really expensive beer at him.
Well, Joey Gallo was in left field. I'd be throwing at him.
Oh yeah, the way he hits, and actually the way he fields anymore. But
yeah, who's this guy? Throw it at him.
Yeah, but yeah, it was just a bad scene, and it sucks that that does happen, but it does happen. You know, fans get rowdy. You never really know with any stadium what kind of fan you'll get. He gets drinking in a Saturday afternoon game, and all hell breaks loose.
Well,
I guess
Oakland fans, you know damn well what's going on there because there's only like 7 of them at a game anymore.
That's
They had 2,000, I believe, the other day, right?
Yep,
At
it was
home opening series.
It was 2,000.
2,000 people. Yeah, good.
It's just
Solid.
Yeah, solid numbers right there.
That's good. So some other news here. We have the Royals City Connect. They announced. I thought the jerseys were pretty cool. It's heritage, old fashioned to the fountains. So that was pretty cool. We seen Toronto. I think the first time so far that we've seen players go to Toronto here for Boston. Or at least it's for Boston now. That COVID's kind of been an issue. They got 2 players they couldn't play. They're on a restricted list because they didn't have the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to take note of. It's kind of a Toronto advantage going forward.
Yeah, really.
Something to take note of, especially at the playoffs. So they're gonna be a high seed in the playoffs if they get that far, and that could be a big advantage.
Yeah, definitely.
We've seen Michael Conforto ruled out for the year with shoulder surgery. We already knew he was going to miss some time, not sign anywhere, but that's a big free agent that teams were interested in still.
Yeah.
Up to the day he decided to get surgery, so that's something to watch out for. And we also seen Voit sliding at home plate, which I thought many of the Reds and I think a lot of fans thought that was pretty dirty. I think his idea was to slide into the catcher as much as he could possibly can legally, and I think he went way overboard. I mean, I think he hurt himself.
Yeah.
He ended up going on the IL, but he stopped dead. Was all spread out, lunged, like hyperextended his leg, getting to the plate, but he really dropped an elbow and tackled the catcher, Todd Stevens, who was also placed on the IL. In a dirty play. It was a dirty play. He slid into the guy, like with his hands, like trying to hit him. It was pretty weird for him to do. And you really didn't hear much other than some fans, Yankee fans and stuff you see on Twitter, and people that are crazy. You know, they always support guys. I mean, that was obviously pretty dirty. But I didn't really see many Padre players stand up for him either. They really didn't talk about it.
No.
It wasn't like they called him out. They just didn't talk about it, which is kind of showing there.
It's an indication in itself.
No, I'm not saying he really tried to hurt the guy. He's just trying to get the run in, but all in all, it ended up being like, hey, let's not do that.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
But that's something to watch there because it was, I guess you could say it was by the rules, but it was just not what you want to see.
No.
If you want to have those rules.
Yeah, especially since they're trying to cut down on the injuries and contact at bases.
And to his head.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
The last thing is the topic of the day. We see Miguel Cabrera get 3,000 hits. Is 3,000 hits really reachable anymore? Is that one of those, not unbreakable records? The 511 wins. But really, is it there? That's like the 300 wins. Like, really not going to see 300 wins, I don't think, ever again. And then maybe these lasting couple of guys, Kershaw or Verlander, or maybe guys like that who still kind of started in that era. Other than you get past a couple of them older players, so we're not going to see that really much. So we're going to see 3,000 hits anymore with the way the baseball's played, with the game possibly games coming off the schedule, going back to a 154 game schedule, guys sitting out as much as they do, and the batting average not being high, the increase in launch angle, home runs, strikeouts, the increase in athleticism on defense, increase in pitching. Is 3,000 hits really plausible? And don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to sit here and say that it's always been plausible. It's 33 guys out of 12,000, 13,000, 14,000 people that ever played the game. So it's not like it happens all the time. But you got a lot of guys who are, you're on pace, they retire early, or they have some injuries, or they don't want to play no more, or they get close. Are we ever going to see that past maybe some of the guys that kind of started in that earlier generation? I don't know.
Yeah.
The guys are coming up earlier, and their careers are staying longer. You never know when you get guys like Franco coming up at 20 years old, and Acuna coming up at 20 years old, and Soto coming up at like 7 years old. And
yeah.
These guys, sure, they come up so young, but that doesn't mean they're going to be able to play and stay, and then teams are a little bit more cautious with them. They put them on the IL more, medical terminology and equipment is better. So you find out about these injuries and give them more time off instead of the bumps and bruises and play through it.
Right.
I think it becomes very tough to see 3,000 hits consistently.
Yeah.
Or even see guys get close to it going forward. I think Altuve has a shot at it. Again, started kind of in that back end of that generation. You can look at Cano and guys who are kind of close, but they're not going to get there. I really doubt. Cano maybe a very outside chance.
Right.
Guys like Arenado, again, it kind of started towards the back end of that kind of generation. But do we really see 3,000 hits? Do we see a chance of that happening consistently? Or like, hey, that guy has a shot, this guy has a shot. They're going to be close.
Right.
I really don't think so. I think 3,000 hits is almost by the wayside. And then I guess you could say the forgettable players, I guess you could say. Well, it only takes one bad year sometimes, and these guys are gone.
Yeah,
They're
that's
replaced.
True.
They're replaced by a young guy. They're platooned, or they're just not signed anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The analytics are like, he had one bad year, and they're almost just thrown by the wayside.
Right.
You don't have guys who give 3-4 years, and then all of a sudden it's like, they've been struggling a little bit. They'll bounce around to other teams, and it's kind of like, one bad year, or maybe 1.5 years, and all of a sudden now he's a backup. Now he's fighting for a job. Now he's only fighting playing time.
Very true.
I don't know. We don't. I don't know. I just don't know if 3,000 hits is going to be as seen.
Yeah.
I think you have a better chance of maybe seeing the higher home runs.
Yeah, definitely.
The 500 home runs, but I mean, again, like RBIs. Are you going to see the high guys in RBIs? I don't think so. Guys aren't on base.
Yeah.
I mean, with the shift maybe changing, maybe that helps. Pitchers are still getting better. Players are still getting faster in defense.
Right.
Scoring's getting tougher, consistently tougher. Used to be kind of more of an open book scoring-wise. Can't almost have a definition for error and hit anymore. I don't know. I think you could see it, but I think the chances of it are definitely going down.
Yeah.
And the bullpen usage. I mean, there's so many things. Just 8 guys coming out of the bullpen some days throwing 105 miles per hour, lefty and righty. I just don't see 3,000 hits coming as often. Almost like 300 wins. I think you might see it might be a little bit more reachable than 300 wins.
Yeah.
But I think it's gone by the wayside. I think your 2,500 hit mark is going to be more of a like, wow, that's pretty impressive.
Right.
Then your 3,000 is almost like that's unbelievable. Guys like Trout aren't going to get there.
And he's got 1,700 or something.
Machado's a guy who has a shot, but again, he plays every day, and he kind of got on the tail end of that, kind of playing. Because more recent, where they really give these guys off, and the change of style of hitting really changed. He was kind of at the tail end.
Right.
But again, he started his career at 20 years old, and
he
might have a shot.
Which definitely
Some of these
helps.
guys started at 25 years old, and they got there.
Yeah.
Like Ichiro. Was he 27 when he came over?
I
and he
think
got
so.
to 3,000
Yeah,
hits. Look at Pujols. We really don't know who knows how old he is, but got to 3,000 hits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a different type of hitting, and I know it's kind of been tread over a lot, and you said it too, that, back, say, 20 years ago even, early 2000s, you really faced 3 guys out of, you faced a starter and 2 bullpen guys, or maybe even a starter and one and the closer. Now you face 4, 5 guys. It depends on the game, and there are guys that you've never even heard of that are throwing frisbees, that are throwing 98-mile-an-hour sinkers. You know what I mean? Like,
to be a pitcher in the Major League Baseball, it's not forgiving.
No.
Because you are just thrown away. I got 130 guys that can come up here and throw 100 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's almost like going there with like a car dealership.
Yeah.
I got 300 cars here that can go. And 1 million people walking in the door. I don't need you to buy a car.
Yeah, I don't need to pay the guy $10 million a year.
Mm-hmm. You got a 5-year rate this year. See you later.
Yeah. I got a guy waiting in the minors, throws 100 and has a 98-mile-an-hour slider.
I can go find a guy off the street.
Yep.
And I got to figure out way to throw him 100 miles per hour. So I don't know. I think 3,000 hits is going to be pretty tough. I mean, it's always been tough, but I mean, the idea of like actually having a chance at it and looking at it and go, boy, that guy's got a chance. Or that guy, he ends up 2,700, 2,800. Vizquel, Damon, guys were like, there's a lot of guys that are in that area.
Right.
We ever going to see that? I don't think so. I just think it's almost gone.
Well, think about what we had in just the last, I guess it's 11 years now. We had Jeter, A-Rod, Ichiro, Beltre, Miggy. I mean, this is like an era of guys that can really hit.
Late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. These guys could hit, different style of game, that's granted. Hitters are definitely, you're asked more of a hitter now, for sure. But, I pulled it up real quick just to look at the stats real quick. The next closest guy is Robinson Cano. He has 2,624 hits. So, you look at that number and you go, well, that's actually pretty close, but consider he's been in the league for 17 years.
Steroids.
And he missed basically a year and a half because of steroids.
And
because
he's at the end of his contract.
I think he's 38, 39.
And again, he started at the back half of that other generation now.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have some tail end guys here, but any of these new guys going to get there.
Yeah, I mean,
new
look.
style hitting, you just get forgotten about.
Yeah.
You just get forgotten about. You aren't good. See you later.
Right.
We will platoon you. We will send you here. You're getting sent here. Bye, goodbye. Like, you just don't. Some guys, they see the writing on the wall. They retire earlier. Ian Kinsler was the guy who retired relatively early in his career, right? I mean, he didn't play as long as maybe he could have.
Yeah.
And there really was no injury that set him off. Like, Fielder was like, oh, the neck injury kind of, and he just kind of was like, all right, that's it for
time
me.
to hang her up. Yeah.
You know, guys like even like Adam Dunn retired earlier than he probably could have.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's the idea of like, I think the game has just changed.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely different from when we were watching growing up.
So I just don't think the 3,000 hit mark is almost gone.
Yeah, I mean, well, think about again from where we're looking at here. You know, your older guys are not even close. You know, Cano's the closest, and he's really not close.
Yeah.
And then you have Joey Votto and Yadier Molina.
Molina's done after this year.
And
Votto's got a year or two.
Votto's what, 38 already? He's got 2,000 hits. So you're thinking right from the rip there, you've got to be waiting at least 15 years for the next guy, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Machado or Renato.
You know, maybe
Harper.
not 15, but you know that. You know, you're waiting a while.
8
it's
years
not like
to even have a shot at it.
Exactly. So, and that's if they even, you know, God willing, they stay healthy and they're productive and
They want to play that long.
And yeah, I mean, not everyone wants to play until they're, you know, 40, 45. You know, some guys hang it up at 37. He's go, you know what, I played my career here and I got my World Series and I'm out.
I'm tired of the bumps and bruises and the 100 and 200 day season, and so I you know, not that we want it to be everyone gets there. But you got to have a chance to get in there, right?
That's the chance, yeah.
I mean, look at that decade we've seen them. I don't want to keep going into this because we already went over it. But you had what, 11 guys you said got there?
In just the 2000s? Well, yeah, I rang off 5 just in the 2010s into 2020. So then you factor in what? Wade Boggs and Tony Gwynn and Cal Ripken and all these guys that were in the 90s and 2000s, you know?
And then look at the guys who didn't get there. Omar Vizquel under 100 hits. Johnny Damon under 100 hits. I mean, we had, I can't think of his name now, but we had a lot of guys that were like right kind of there. Mm-hmm. Over that 2,500. Paul Konerko was over 2,500 hits, I believe. Mm-hmm. Those guys are right on the cusp of it.
Wasn't Jimmy Rollins pretty damn close too? Wasn't he?
I think he was over the 2,500.
Yeah.
Once you know that 2,500, you're on the cusp.
You're right there.
Yeah. That's a lot and there's a lot more guys that are like that. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's even guys who didn't get there, but were on the cusp of it.
Right.
You know, I just don't know if we ever really get there after some of these guys' careers end here. I just don't see the game the way it is, and I just don't see it. It's a what have you done for me lately game to
it sure
a lot more than it ever has been. I think
sure
a lot of sports have been more like that, but it really is anymore. Yeah. If you're not good for me right now, you're no good for me no more.
Yeah, that's
you don't
sad.
Get 3, 4, 5 years. Well, the back of my baseball card shows I had a bad year. Well, I'm going to go get somebody who's going to fill your spot or platoon with you because you only hit righties now.
Yeah, I'll get someone cheaper too. Yeah. You know?
And that hurts the ability for players too.
Yeah, I would like to see, you know, I like this, you know, that guys can get to 3,000 hits. It shows that even though we're in like a 3-outcome type deal here, you know, I agree with you. I think that the home runs, you'll definitely see more guys with home runs. You'll definitely see guys with high strikeout rates. So you'll see maybe that record get broken here, or walks, or you know, I know Barry Bonds is, you know, up there with those stats, but you know, I would like to see, you know, almost like a once in a generation guy at least, you know, like a Trout makes sense to get there. Wander Franco and Vlad Guerrero Jr. These young guys are coming up, like they seem prime and ready to do things like that. So, but I think as it sits right now, it's going to take a while, and I think that the game is going to change again by the time that the guys that could get 3,000 hits are going to get there. So you're going to see another change in baseball, I'm sure, by then. So, and then who knows what it looks like by then? Maybe the slapstick style of baseball, trying to just get base hits, comes back. I don't know.
Yeah, the LeMay, Dave Fletcher, Nick Madrigal style hitting kind of comes back, and with the shift going away, and there's a possibility. Well, I just don't know. I just don't see baseball. I just see records being hard to get, and then you got to remember there's a chance that the season gets cut down 7 games again, or 8 games.
Yeah,
go back to 154 games, and that's not going to help.
Yeah,
the guys play 120 games, and they played a lot of the year instead of playing 155.
Right.
So
yeah, it's going to be tough for a lot of records, and not only just 3,000. It's going to be tough for milestones and records across the board, pitching and hitting.
Yeah, a lot of records because you're just forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially as a pitcher. Strikeouts, I don't know if you'll see that because I don't see if people have many innings. The 300 wins, the saves records.
I was just going to say the saves record.
You just forgotten about.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah, that's why you don't see the guys like Hader, Chapman, and Raisel Iglesias and all these guys, and Craig Kimbrell. You don't see them as often because they go away.
You were on the verge of losing Edwin Diaz.
Yeah.
After that Mets year. He was you just almost didn't hear of him anymore.
He was on a thread, yeah.
If it wasn't for that contract, that relatively big contract, I don't know if you see Edwin Diaz around or as a closer consistently anymore. He's just floating around as a setup man, and so it's very forgotten game. Like, it's just, you got to be good all the time or you're not good for me no more.
Yeah. I struggle with that sometimes as a fan because I'm like, did you not see like a year ago he batted like 300, and then they just forget, and then he's a bench guy. It's frustrating as a fan too. So, but that's just where baseball is. So, will we see another 3,000 hit guy? Yeah. When? I don't know.
Yeah.
Very long time from now probably. So yeah, again, congrats to Miggy though. That's a great career he's had, and he has really not much left to prove with 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. So
600 doubles, part of that.
Yeah.
Club and a World Series.
Yeah. So what else? Triple Crown, MVP, 2 MVPs, I think back to back. So
Triple Crown's not,
I mean,
it's pretty easy to get, right?
Yeah. It's
60 years between them.
Yeah, not too bad. No history there. We'll see what the future holds with hitting and with pitching stats too, because like we said, they're dime a dozen anymore too. So to kind of come from that into the wrap up the news segment of the show is who's doing the best right now. So the Dodgers currently hold the best record in the league at 11-4 with a 7.33 winning percentage, while the Mets are second in the NL at 12-5, but they have a 7.06 winning percentage. Over in the AL, the Blue Jays, Yankees, and Mariners are all tied with the best record at 10-6. The Dodgers own the best run differential at +44, while the Reds have the worst at -41. So I feel like every year we've done this podcast, I just talk about the Dodgers.
I can't stand listening to it anymore, to be honest.
It's crazy that the Dodgers are this. I mean, when you have the money, I mean, I guess it makes sense. But it's regular season wise, they're always top dog. It seems like they're always at the top of the statistical leaderboard. So
yeah.
But that's kind of where we're at in the league. It's still not a big record to chew on. It's like you could really have the Orioles could have had a record like that, and it wouldn't. Sometimes it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and some of these other teams I mentioned are on my hot and cold list here. The Yankees, hot list. Yankees, Mariners, Mets, Brewers, Giants. Some cold teams. The White Sox, stricken by the injury bug for sure. Royals, Astros, Phillies, Nationals, Reds. Reds had 11-game losing streak, and they didn't hold the lead for 99 innings.
Yeah, oh my God.
So they broke that, though, but they were on the cold list here. So those are some hot and cold teams that I just want to throw out there before we get into the players themselves.
Yeah, so with that, let's move on to the who's hot and who's not section. Like I always kind of try to do, I try to have the players of the week because they typically are the hottest hitters. But this week there are 2 guys I don't have on my hot list that I do want to mention. Miggy was named co-AL Player of the Week, obviously for the 3,000 hits, and he did have a pretty good week all told. For the NL, Cody Bellinger won NL Player of the Week, had a bit of a what you would call, I guess, a comeback week. Because he's been absolutely awful. Mm-hmm. I mean, all last year he was awful. So the fact,
I think, or I don't even know if he was that high.
Yeah. So I mean, the fact that he had a good week for a lot of Dodger fans is
a couple fly balls might even be a good week for him.
Yeah, at this point. So those were the guys I don't have on this list. But to go into who I do have, Ty France did win the other AL Player of the Week. He went absolutely berserk. I think he had like 2 5-hit games or something. Mm-hmm. It was insane.
A walk off.
Yeah. He batted .500 over the last week with an .885 slugging and a .1437 OPS. I also have Robbie Grossman, had a .500 average as well with a .550 slugging and a .1092 OPS. Nico Horner had a .529 average with a .647 slugging and a .1203 OPS. Vladimir Guro Jr., he's no stranger to this list. He batted .474 over the last week with a .526 slugging and a .1064 OPS. And finally, Byron Buxton. When healthy, you kind of know what you're getting out of him. He batted .538 over the last week with a .1308 slugging and a .1908 OPS. So, pretty good week from those guys
as well.
I think it was like, wasn't it? What was the stat? It was like the furthest walk-off home run ever.
470 feet.
Yeah.
Upper deck. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a freak, and I would like to see him stay healthy longer because he is a very good player.
Yeah. Well, that's. Yeah,
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, some other hot players here. Isaiah Conforto for the Yankees really turned it around after the first week. Luis Arias, that Rock Carew, Tony Gwynn type of punch hitter we see. He's red hot right now. Mike Yastrzemski was playing pretty well. Unfortunately, just placed on the COVID IL, but we'll get there. And, Genio Suarez, I believe he was batting like 384 this week over the last 7 days or so. And that's a guy who bats 184. You're like, oh, he's all right.
Yeah.
So he's had a pretty good week here.
Yeah, good for him.
So that's pretty good, and some pitchers that are doing real good too. Some hot and cold, some hot pitchers, I should say. Madison Bumgarner pitching pretty well over his last start or two. Sandy Alcantara has been pitching great ever since last year, really, other than 2 starts against the Dodgers last year. He's been unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Cole Irvin pitched very well yesterday. Austin Nola pitched great yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
That was Austin Nola, like that's how he could be every day.
Yeah.
He really could be. And then you get Zach Wheeler going, and
Aaron Nola.
Aaron Nola. He could really go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got to get the consistency. I think he's not close. He's not far.
Well, he puts in starts like this, and then all of a sudden he'll give up 8 runs or so.
He explodes.
He's strange, yeah.
So, and Aroldis Chapman, he had 3 saves over the last 7 days, and I don't think he had he had no walks, I believe, or maybe 1. So he's been pitching pretty well.
Yeah, it's big for him.
But yeah, so there's some pitchers that are really throwing the ball well over the last 7 to 10 days as well.
Yeah, some big names obviously there. And then obviously we move over to the cold list of hitters. We have a few guys that are ice cold. I mean, I don't. Very rarely do I find guys all of them under 100, but here we are. So the number 1 I have is Joey Bart, 0 average, 0 slugging, and a 235 OPS. He's 0 for his last 13.
That's my fantasy team.
Yeah, that's one of Frank's catchers. Number 2, I have Yordan Alvarez. I believe I just saw the stat come across the screen. He's 1 for his last 19. 0.53 average with an 0.53 slugging and a 153 OPS, so not a great week for him.
Do not worry about Carlos Delgado Jr. Don't worry about him.
No, I'm not worried about him, but not a great week for sure.
So he'll mash 5 home runs this week.
That's what he does. He comes back and says, "Wait a minute, I can hit."
Yeah, and I think he's facing Mike Fantasy this week.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
Number 3, Adam Duvall, an 0.59 average with an 0.59 slugging and a 118 OPS.
He's that kind of player. Very hot and cold, streaky kind of guy.
But when he's hot, you flip that stat sheet around, and all of a sudden he's
nuts. He just doesn't have that prolonged streak.
If I'm not mistaken, he's a big RBI guy too. I think he
knows how to hit when he needs to hit.
Yeah,
he knows what to do.
Yeah, he's good in that lineup. So but you kind of expect weeks like that for him. Here's another guy you expect weeks like that from. Number 4, Mitch Garver. Batted 0.48 over last week with an 0.48 slugging and a 139 OPS. There's a guy that you kind of expect colder weeks from because he is a little bit more streaky, a little bit more 3-outcome guy. Yeah. So that's just kind of par for the course. And number 5, a little surprising, Nick Madrigal. An 0.67 average with an 0.67 slugging and a 243 OPS. One of the more pure contact hitters we see in the sport. Speedy. More of a traditional second baseman, you'd say. And someone that Frank and I really like. So, but you have cold weeks, so that's even if you're a contact guy, it just happens.
Yeah, and some other guys here that I mentioned that were really not hitting the ball great over the last 7 days or so. Brian Reynolds, another fantasy player of mine. Don't worry about him. Great hitter, switch hitter, but not hitting good over the last 7 days or so. Brandon Belt struggling. Ketel Marte really struggled all year so far, but really not hitting the ball that great.
Surprised.
So the guy's going to bounce back here pretty shortly. He's just too good of a hitter. And Rafael Devers. Kind of been a little bit slumping here over the last 7 days. Right. There's some big names and some big, important cogs to teams.
Right.
Some pitchers that have been struggling. Dallas Keuchel, really not pitching good. Stroman got beat up recently. Savali yesterday, Aaron Savali, for Cleveland, got beat up pretty good against the Yankees yesterday. Sean Manaea, after the good start, got beat up by the Dodgers. It happens. And Anthony Bender for Miami out of the bullpen. I believe he had 2 losses last week alone and had like a 9 or 10 ERA, so he got beat up pretty well there too. So there's some pitchers and some of my hitters there that really aren't doing that great, but this is how the game goes.
Especially it's still April. I mean, once it gets a little warmer out and these guys get a little more comfortable and things.
They compared this right now at this point in the season to a normal opening week. Where these guys are kind of stretched out to and used to.
Right.
So this is about where they would be body-wise, like an opening week.
Okay.
Without the shortened spring.
All right, so then
So again, next week it's May. You're more into the swing of things, I think.
yeah, there's some of these guys, especially we saw on the cold list. You really have to worry about them. So it's just sometimes you just get the cold months, cold weeks, cold start. It is what it is. It still is chilly out, and there's some stadiums out there where you're a little more up north, or a little more.
They're cold until mid-May, and you're in Colorado and Chicago and
Yep.
Minnesota and places like that. It's like, oh, all right, yeah.
Yeah, up in Boston,
Detroit,
places like that. Yeah, yeah.
Cleveland, even off the water there.
Right.
Frigid.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you gotta be wary of that too. Some guys just play better in the warm weather. This is what it is.
Yeah. So the last little bit here, we go into injuries. I think we had a decent injury week
compared to last week.
I think it was relatively decent. John Means is going to get Tommy John, so that's a shame. See you later. Quan for Cleveland is day-to-day. They think he might get placed on the IL. They don't really know yet. Eloy Jimenez is placed on the IL. Expect to miss 6 to 8 weeks with a hamstring. I believe what they say, lower hamstring tear. Just misstepping and hit the back of the base somehow and just hyperextended his leg. I'm not really sure how you do that. You got to be careful there. You got to know how to run the bases. It just happens, though, sometimes. Brandon Marsh today with stomach bug. Nothing too crazy. But he is leading the team in RBIs for the Angels, which is surprising.
Yeah, how about that?
Altuve placed in the IL with a hamstring issue. They expect to miss a little bit of time there. John Gray placed in the IL already, again, with a knee injury. Josh Bell's been day-to-day, kind of on and off here. He's got a hamstring issue. Expect to be back tomorrow, Tuesday. But just note that he has been day-to-day twice now in the last 3 days with a knee and then a hamstring issue. Andrew Heaney, after a great start, placed on the IL. Luke Voigt placed on the IL, which we mentioned earlier. Alex Cobb placed on the IL. So those are kind of your bigger cogs of teams that have been placed on the ILs.
Right.
On the better side of news, Ryu progressing. Nate Pearson progressing for the Blue Jays. They're expected to kind of be back here, hopefully somewhat soon. We had Yandy Diaz for the Rays come off the IL, COVID IL. Salvador Perez was plunked in the hand. X-rays negative. He enters to play the next day, so he's good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Something to take note of, though. If he misses a game here or there, might be a soreness or swelling from the hand, but he should be good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Giolito activated off the IL, which is good, especially for the White Sox because they have like 98 injuries right now to some of the bigger players.
Right.
We have Ryan Presley should be activated here pretty soon. Expect to have him back. Acuna coming to a crucial week of being when he's going to be activated. He's been on rehab assignment, been doing relatively good at double. He stole base, which is good, knowing when to come off a knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
He should be back soon. DeGrom was getting an MRI. They don't really have the results yet, which was weird. They had them, like they looked at them, but they wanted to get another look at the results, which is kind of not a good sign.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who just always seems to be hurt, and everything takes extra long. And when he does pitch, he pitches 2 innings and then comes out of the game. So I'm not sure what's going on, but their hope is that he's progressing and he can start some sort of throwing program soon. But he's getting another look at his MRI, which is kind of weird. And he's a Met, so you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
Bryce Harper's playing. So there's nothing really too wrong with him, but he does have an elbow injury, and he's nearly not playing the field much. They said if there was no DH, he'd probably been on the IL because he really just can't throw right now that great. But he is playing. He's more DHing, though, so it's something to watch. Jack Flaherty's progressing a little slower than they thought. They're thinking maybe mid to end May at this point that he'll be back, but he should be back. Everything feels pretty good.
Okay.
Luis Castillo had a rehab start yesterday. He should be back here pretty soon for the Reds. And we have Wade Lamont for the Giants. He should be back here pretty soon. I believe he started a rehab assignment.
Okay.
So there's some relatively good week. We did lose some players. We did have some big names coming back or on the verge of coming back. So overall, I think it wasn't a too terrible week of injuries.
Yeah, John means the big one as far as injury length. Eloy Jimenez hurts for the White Sox. I believe, was he the one that was hurt last year as well?
Spring training, yeah.
Yeah, so he's has missed some time here, unfortunately, and he's a big part of that lineup, big talented guy. So yeah, there's definitely some big injuries there. I would say again though, as far as like names and like just people going on the IL or people being banged up is a little better than last week. So we'll kind of take that and run with it, I guess. So as long as we can keep the names low, and that's better for baseball fans each week. So so we'll go from there.
Yeah. And then the last thing here is a trivia question. We had 3,000 hits. We talked about 3,000 hits quite a bit today, even last week a bit. So the trivia question is, who are the 2 players in MLB history that hold the lowest batting averages that are part of the 3,000 hit club? And that's current. Obviously, this could change with guys like Pujols, which I really doubt he'll get there. But Maybe you never know. But currently, batting averages. Which two players hold the lowest batting average who are part of the 3,000 hit club? And the answers are the lowest batting average in the 3,000 hit club is Cal Ripken Jr. He has 3,184 hits, and he's a 276 lifetime hitter. And the second lowest was Ricky Henderson, who had 3,055 hits. He was a 279 lifetime hitter. So there's your two lowest batting averages in the 3,000 hit club out of the 33 players.
Yeah, and it's guys, I guess, that are lower on the 3,000 hit list. I guess it makes kind of sense.
Yeah, Ricky Henderson, 3,055. He's definitely bottom so often.
Yeah.
Ripken, 3,184. He's in a decent spot.
Yeah, a little bit higher than the average.
I would say they're definitely the bottom half. I mean, you're probably talking more close to maybe the bottom third of the list.
Yeah, well, definitely Henderson.
But some of the bigger names that baseball's ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Ripken got his own record and Iron Horse and all that. And then you have Ricky Henderson, lead off home runs, and he, tell you to this day, he's still faster than anybody and still should be in the league.
Yeah, talk about, now
I don't know if he actually ever retired, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like officially,
Played for
I don't
Newark
know.
Bears, and he played all the way to like 2004.
I know.
He played MLB, and then he played with the Newark Bears. We were an independent league. I mean, he still plays baseball somewhere.
Probably.
And he's still fast, so you can turn the lights off and be under the sheets before the light went out.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we talked earlier, obviously, about unbreakable records. There's two guys with unbreakable records, in my opinion. No one will touch Cal Ripken's record. And the steals with Henderson, I just don't see how you touch that.
And he holds a leadoff home run record.
Yeah.
81 of them.
That one I could only see. You got guys like Springer that love
I
the
could
leadoff
see someone
homer.
doing that. Just, by the way, Yordan Alvarez hit a home run today.
Oh, see, there you go. It's already started.
But
of course, against me.
yeah, leadoff home runs I could definitely see. But I mean, he holds that record. He could hold that for a long time. Stolen bases, no one's touching that.
They both have like an untouchable record.
I think he has more stolen bases maybe in his 40s than you'll see guys have in their whole careers.
That's just how it is. Well,
two unbreakable records. He has a single season one and a career one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
130 a season.
Yeah, no one's touching that. Well, they're gonna have the bigger bases,
No
so
one's
it'll be a little closer.
I don't care if you put second base one step off of first base. I don't think anyone's breaking that. And then 1408, 1406 is the career.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
Second's like what? Lou Brock with like 900.
He has like 900. Yeah.
Incredible.
He flew past Lou Brock, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, and he'll still do it. He'll
Yeah.
still run. You ask him to.
Oh yeah.
So, but that's the trivia question. Relates to 3,000 hits, and I thought it was a little surprising to see those averages. They're not bad averages. Just those two big names. You're kind of thinking at least they're sitting in the 280s, which are you think. But
Yeah.
276, 279 are just definitely not bad averages at all.
No.
But you just
no.
think 3,000 hits, you're thinking they got to kind of be 280 hitter in their life.
Yeah. Right.
That's
right.
how you get there, right?
Yeah.
Lifetime 285 hitter or so.
Yeah. Either that or you play forever. I don't know.
Well,
One or the other.
Anderson kind of did that.
Yeah.
And Ripken just played every day.
Yeah. It's just yeah.
But still, you kind of think you're like. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Mike did beat me in fantasy too by one
did.
category.
I did.
But that's okay because I'll beat him later. I hope. And
I got my first win out of the way. That's all I needed.
Yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, well, fantasy's going. We're almost into May, warm weather. We're talking about trips for our own, for baseball stadiums, going to see some really cool ones is our plan. So
Yeah.
just excited for the year here and excited to keep going with this and watching baseball kind of rounding the form, rounding the shape here. We've been talking about that for a couple weeks, but we're right on the verge of being kind of baseball. Guys are ready. You're pitching 100 pitches. It's kind of your normal day in, day out.
Yeah. First month's almost over, so it's kind of get up and go now. You don't want to be left in the dust, especially if you're a better team in the division, or at least on paper. So it's time to go, and guys are getting stretched out a little better. I know offense is down. I feel like that was kind of the case last year too, so it just kind of is what it is. But for now, baseball's been good, and we've got some stars coming back. Ronald Acuna Jr. being one of them, and good things to look forward to as we always kind of say during the week, during the episode. So that's all I kind of have for this episode. That's all the notes I have and all that I really had to talk about. So if that's it, I guess it's unless you have anything, I guess we wrap her up.
That's it. Ready for another week of baseball.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. You can catch this podcast on Apple Podcasts as well as Google Podcasts and Spotify. You can listen on our regularly updated YouTube channel as well as our website, screwball.podbean.com. You can follow me on Twitter at RealMikeLepre. You can follow me on Instagram at Mike Lepre.
And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at FDubs10.
You can follow our official Screwball Twitter at ScrewballPod. You can follow our official Screwball Facebook at ScrewballPod. No E in Screw. And that's it from us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Take care.